I'm Frank Gehry, and this is my masterclass. When I talk to students, there's two things I advise them. One is to be themselves, and I talk about the writing your signature, that if you write a signature and your colleague writes their signature, you can recognize yours and they can recognize theirs. There is a you that's different from a him or a her. And it's worth pursuing because that's where you're the strongest and so on. And that plus making sure that everything you do, no matter how small, is the best you can possibly do. It's a small thing. It's about 2 inches long and ½ inch high or something. But in that little act of drawing that name, you reveal yourself. It happens automatically. You don't think about it, usually. I mean, people contrive their signatures and all kinds of stuff like that eventually. Get ego involved in what it looks like. But I'm talking about generally. And that difference is you. And so how did you feel when you wrote it? You didn't think about it. That's a prime example of a visual impact of your own persona. So when you take that to do assigning a building or a teapot or a light bulb or whatever things you're going to do, that persona's still in, if you let it be, if you don't self-consciously legislate it out, which some people do because they're embarrassed by it and have difficulties and feel insecure because some parent or some wayward school teacher tells you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to be that person. You're not allowed to be yourself. You're not allowed. You're here to do X, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and you got to do it this way. No, you don't. And no, you shouldn't. And you should enjoy finding yourself, and you should enjoy expressing yourself and being secure in it. They can reject you, and they will. And believe me, they will. And you gotta just keep doing it. I believe that having a healthy insecurity is crucial to doing the kind of work I want to do. I've compared notes with actors, musicians, composers, and see the same. My friend Esa-Pekka Salonen is an incredible composer, and he suffers so much from it. Sometimes we have to go out and have a drink and cry in each other's beer. I think that comes with the territory. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's something we feel comfortable with. And if it isn't there, we don't feel comfortable. As soon as I feel too secure about something, I know I'm on the wrong track. And that's hard to do, and people don't believe it because you get all this notoriety for doing stuff, which has happened to me a little bit. And it's hard for them to understand you're not, or I'm not, and I know a lot of my friends aren't, that insecurity is there always. And we rely on it. I rely on it. It keeps me motivated to keep doing stuff, and I don't dismiss it. I used to volunteer to go to elementary schools, just spend 3 or 4 hours with the kids, and I'd have them make a city. And so we'd make the city and put it on call it the library and the bookstore and the city hall and blah, blah, blah. And I showed them how to use the transit, the old way the surveyors use. They don't do that anymore. They got another fancier way now. And I took the dial out and showed them it was a protractor. And I said, so when you're learning protractor, this is what it's for, and this is how you use it. And then I asked them to calculate the area of the buildings. And so they'd never done that before, so I taught them math. They were open to that. And then you could say who runs the city, and you could teach civics. And you could get into philosophy, literature, music. You get into anything you want once you open that door. And it's very simple. It only took 4 hours. I think you can tap into people's creativity. And I think whether you become a doctor or a mathematician or a whatever, you still need that self-propelled creativity. You need to find yourself in it. After I finally got in architecture school, at the end of the first semester, second year, which they skipped me into, at the end of the first semester, my teacher called me in and said, Frank, this is not a profession for you. If I were you, I'd get out now. That guy became the architect administrator for the LAX airport, and I saw him often. And he would see me coming, and he would say, okay, I remember, don't remind me. So luckily, I had enough positive stuff in me that I overcame that. I didn't listen to him. I didn't quit. I kept going. When people say that to you, you shouldn't just cave in. Assess the person who's making the statement. The reporters don't report on the mediocrity. A mediocre building is built, they'll publish it in the real estate section, and no architectural critic will, even after 5 years, look at the 200 buildings that built and say, hey, wait a minute, this is junk. Instead, they'll wait till some young architect comes in with a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and who's struggled and made some kind of special thing, and they trash it without thinking about it, just because it looks a little different. And I think that's our reality in our profession. It's probably in everybody's profession. But there is a kind of strength that comes from that keeps you going.